76. What is the percent increase? Several years ago, Joe started a lawn care business. Due to rising costs, he needs to increase his prices. He is concerned, however, because he has heard that if he raises his rates more than 33%, he might lose business. At right is a letter he sent to his clients. Dear valued customer, after several years of business, MoCare is increasing its price for lawn service. Since the cost of gas and other supplies has increased, we need to raise our prices. Our prices will increase from $12.50 per hour to $15 per hour. We hope you continue to be happy with the quality of work. Sincerely, Joe. Joe began to wonder about how the increase in his fees could be expressed in terms of a percent. Part A. Joe wants to determine the scale factor or multiplier for the price increase and wrote the following equation. Explain how this equation represents the situation. What does X represent? Well, this equation represents the situation, which I've written it over here. This equation represents the situation because this $12.50 represents his original cost per hour. The 15 represents the new cost per hour. And the X represents the scale factor change. So that change from $12.50 to $15. So we're going to say that X represents the scale factor change from $12.50 to $15. All right, that's all for part A. Part B tells us to solve the equation above to determine the scale factor for his change in fees. Represent this multiplier or scale factor as a fraction, as a decimal, and as a percent. So let me get rid of A here. I'm going to leave my equation since we are solving for the equation. And I have a 12.50x equals 15. So this 12.50 is 12.50 times x. So to undo that, we would divide by 12.50 on both sides. And when we do that, we get x by itself on the left. And then 15 divided by 12.50, we should get 1.20. So that is what x is as a decimal, 1.20. Now, as a percentage, remember this 1 before the decimal indicates that one whole, and one whole is 100%. So as a percentage, this would be 120%. And then as a fraction, of course, we would have 120 out of 100. Now 100 on the bottom because 100 is a whole. And if we simplify that, we get 6/5. Okay, that's all for part B. Now for part C. How could this situation be represented with a line diagram? With your team, copy and complete the diagram below, then answer and do the following. So we have several bullet points. Which portion of the diagram corresponds to the original price? Circle and label this part original. Which portion of the diagram corresponds to the change in price? Circle and label this part change. Well, what I'm going to do first is copy down exactly what they give me. So we know about this point right here, they have it labeled $12. 50 cents right here. And then they give us a few other things to put. On the bottom, we are dealing with percentages. So we have a few things here. Now, when I am copying this down as the diagram, what I'm looking at is on top, I would be speaking in terms of money, and on bottom, I would be speaking in terms of percentages. So what we need to do to find out the percentages is, well, I'll tell you where I would start. I know that at the very beginning, this would represent 0%. And the 100% would be right here. That was that original 100% of his price. This at the very end would be 120%. I need to make sure I give myself room here. So 120%. And we talked about how 120%, that represents our $15. So now I want to go back to my bullet points and determine what have I answered. So first, which portion of the diagram corresponds to the original price? So the part of the diagram that corresponds to the original price is going to be this part, because the original price was that $12.50. So the second part is which portion of the diagram corresponds to the change in price. Circle and label this part change. So I actually put this in the wrong place right here. So what I should have done is I should have labeled on the outside, this is representing the whole 120%. Now this little portion right here represents the 20%. And I really should probably put the 100% right here. So then we can see that the 100% plus the 20% is 120%. So the change part, now that part I'm going to go ahead and do in a different color. And this is the change part. All right, and that is all for C. Oops. Okay, D now. Okay, let's see. So D says when Joe raises his rates, what was the percent increase? That's another way of asking what percent of the original price did the price change should Joe expect to lose business? Well, we determined that he raised his rate by 20%. So that's what we're adding. That 20% was what we added on to that original 100%. And then we need to also answer the question, should Joe expect to lose business? Well, gee, how should I know? Oh, well, you know what? If we're not sure and this question doesn't give us any information about it, that means we need to go back to the very beginning. And recall that it said he was concerned because he heard that if he raises his rates more than 33%, he might lose business. Well, 20 is not more than 33%, so no, he does not need to worry about losing business. And that is all for 776.